Liberte, galite, Fraternite, a documentary on the French Revolution by Olive Krug. Revolutions are a tale as old as time. The peasants rise up against the big bad ruler who wants to take over other countries and is treating the peasants poorly. The peasants then rise up and defeat the leader, and they all live happily ever after. The French Revolution is a different story. It has many facets, and historians have been arguing about it for decades. The French Revolution has many sides to it because, on the one hand, it is all a great and glorious battle where everything turned out perfectly, and on the other hand, it's a messy, bloody massacre where everything that could go wrong did, and many innocent lives were lost. The problem is, both of these statements are true, to a point. You can't have any kind of revolution without a couple of drops of blood being spilled, but the thousands of people having their heads chopped off was indeed overkill. And the French Revolution wasn't all beauty and carefully planned battles. Underneath that exterior shell of glory, there were a lot of human feelings at play. These were simply some people who didn't want to starve to death. Because of failed harvests, near bankruptcy due to donating money, ships, and time to the American Revolution, and royals who lived opulently while citizens starved, the peasants of France rebelled against their king, Louis XVI, in the year 1789. They initiated an era in which the people ruled, so they could put their failing country back together, feed themselves, and fend off attacks from their longtime European enemies, the British and the Austrians. France had many rulers that weren't working for the peasants, and the rulers didn't mean to do any harm, but they were simply not prepared for their duty, Marie Antoinette having almost no say in court, and Louis XVI being an unprepared teenager who had not expected to be on the throne, and also he had a reported lack of self-confidence. This made the outgoing, fun, and excitable Marie Antoinette like him less, inspiring many rumors of affairs with the peasants and generally tanking her popularity. Marie Antoinette was already not viewed as a trustworthy figure by the wide majority of the population of France. The reason is simple. She was from Austria. With Austria being a rival of France, the marriage was a business deal arranged by their parents. The French Revolution was bloody, gory, and frankly, it ruined the country's reputation. During the American Revolution, the French donated millions of francs worth of weapons and ships. This donation ultimately gave the Americans the edge and won them the war. Unfortunately, France was already in debt, and this assistance offered to the Americans sunk them even further, almost to the point of bankruptcy. The country also was facing mass food shortages, skirmishes with the British and Austrians, and an incompetent teenage king. This buildup of bad events eventually tipped the population of France over the edge. In the year June 1789, the French peasants formed a mob and stormed the prison of Bastille. This was the start of the French Revolution, where things really started picking up. Over the years, the National Assembly was formed and then switched out for several different forms of government. Maximilien Robespierre took charge and instigated the Reign of Terror, a period where people were executed by the thousands on the guillotine, including the king, 9 months later the queen, and then their son, Louis XVII. Another important moment is when the women of France, who normally sat out in political matters such as this, led a march to the Palace of Versailles. This in particular was also important because it was a rare moment of gender equality in wartime. Another iconic moment is when revolutionaries made an oath, which promised they would not stop until they were liberated from the monarchy. This inspired many art pieces and was known as Serment de Jour de Paix. This series of events changed the way France is governed, so now it's a functioning society ruled by the people as well as aristocrats. Once Napoleon Bonaparte became Emperor of France, the country started to fight against those who were their rivals. Another thing the French Revolution is also known for is its many symbols. The most commonly seen in artwork or literature from that time depicting the revolutionaries in the Phrygian cap, an almost gnome-like cap which the revolutionaries wore. The cap was red, the color of sacrifice, danger, and courage. All, of course, words of the French Revolution. Another symbol of the French Revolution is the phrase Liberte, Egalite, Fraternite, meaning liberty, equality, fraternity. The liberty of this phrase could symbolize the liberation that the peasants of France had from their older government, the monarchy, the equality for the idea that all the people in France are equal and deserve to be treated that way, and the fraternity for the brotherhood-like qualities of the revolution. This phrase was the main catchphrase for the revolution. Once Napoleon became Emperor of France, the country started many small wars, earning Napoleon the nickname the Terrible Mr. Fight-All, and definitely putting a major dent in his popularity with the peasants of France. These battles were often won, and France gained much territory. However, their rampage across Europe went downhill, and eventually Napoleon lost his life at the fateful Battle of Waterloo. In 1832, the British decided that they needed to be liberated from their monarchy, just like the French. This is one of the many impacts of the French Revolution. They decided to go about a more peaceful way of establishing their government compared to the French, though. Several art pieces were made on this contrast, most of which portrayed France as barbaric and full of people who didn't care about religion, about order, or about education, while Britain was portrayed as an orderly and peaceful. While this was going on, Napoleon was the Emperor of France, a risky move after the country had just overthrown its previous monarchs, causing battle after battle that could have been avoided. Once he died, France created another system of government, which is the one they have today. This consists of a parliament as well as two people who are elected. The French Revolution was a major pivotal point in the country of France's history because it not only changed their government system, but it changed the lives of people in that country and set the country on a different path. It helped their economy and gave them more territory, even though the country had significant losses in population and its popularity with other countries. The country of France took its first steps toward its modern government in these 10 years, and later influenced several other countries, including Britain. Even though the revolution had its definite drawbacks, such as being messy, vulgar, and loud, this revolution set the country on a track to an era of prosperity and profitability. Eventually, the people of France banded together and ultimately made some big sacrifices, changing the country's path entirely. It was all in the name of the greater good for the country, inspiring others to follow in its now well-trodden tracks. The French Revolution has transformed the country of France from a poorly funded, starving, economic failure and made it into a place with culture and beauty, as well as economic prosperity and security. It's amazing how after all the prejudice and judgment, this country has survived and picked up the pieces of its broken financial system, as well as the lives of its peasants. All because of a few starving, sickly street urchins with Phrygian caps who wouldn't take no for an answer, decided not to take the path of least resistance, and who made the crowded streets of Paris echo with their protesting screams.